We're examining Syria's civil war in depth this hour on this Thursday, as we do every week. Activists say more than 100 people have been killed every single day this week. This is becoming a routine death toll. The most intense fighting has been in and around the city of Maret el-Numan. About 10 days ago, rebels said they'd captured the town, and Syria's military has been hitting back hard with warplanes pounding the area. On Thursday, activists say a government fighter jet struck a residential street in the city, killing at least 22 people. Here's the aftermath, we believe. Why is this city so important? It is on the main highway connecting Damascus in the south with Syria's largest city, Aleppo, in the north. Syria's military wants to regain control of the route in order to move reinforcement troops in and out of the region. It was also part of the ancient Silk Road, a trade route connecting the Middle East and Asia. The Turkish border is not far from Maret el-Numan. Tensions along that border show no signs of dying down. On Wednesday, Turkey returned fire after Syrian mortar rounds landed inside Turkish territory. And now the government is taking drastic steps to prevent its airspace from being used to supply the Syrian military. Last week, you'll remember, Turkey grounded a plane traveling to Damascus from Moscow, confiscating part of its cargo. And on Monday, Turkey ordered an Armenian plane en route from Aleppo to land and inspected its cargo.
We have banned all civilian flights from Syria from Turkish airspace because civilian flights should be conducted for civilian purposes, regardless of single or dual usages of any flight. We have ascertained that military equipment was carried to a military institution on a civilian flight. As we have determined that civilian flights have been misused by the Syrian authorities, we have notified the Syrian administration of our decision.
That was the Turkish foreign minister. But it's not just Turkey getting tougher on Syria. The European Union foreign ministers agreed to a new round of sanctions this week. The EU added to its existing arms embargo by banning the transport of Syrian weapons or financial services that help Syria obtain weapons. In addition to a ban on the import of arms from Syria, the EU also denied Syrian airlines access to European Union airports, and it added 28 individuals to a travel ban list. What impact do these sanctions have? Who do they hurt in the end? Joining me now from CNN Center in Atlanta to talk more about the impact of sanctions is Lawrence Rubin. He's an assistant professor at the Sam Nunn School of International Affairs at the Georgia Institute of Technology. Thanks very much, Professor Rubin, for being with us.
Thank you for having me on the show.
Let me get, of course, you know the details, but just to remind our viewers of the sanctions against Syria at present. The EU has 181 individuals total. 54 entities targeted by sanctions is banning Syrian Arab Airlines flights to EU airports. The USA has various sanctions against individuals. The Commercial Bank of Syria. Is this hurting the regime?
I believe it is. It's making it much more difficult for the regime, on one hand, to wage a war against the rebels. But I think primarily it's really putting a lot of pressure, and this has to do less with the arms embargo in terms of rather the restrictions basically on the travel for individuals or assets or the financial ones, making it really difficult for the supporters of the Assad regime, in particular a crucial element, the business community, to stick around and continue. There are also other elements of the business community in particular to not abandon the regime is what's really trying them.
Because Lawrence Rubin, essentially, Russia and Iran are still very much supporting the Syrian regime of Bashar al-Assad. So the argument can be, well, look, if the regime needs spare parts for its helicopters, you know, it'll find a way to get it. But in the end, the people really hurt by not being able to fly to the EU or not being able to get lines of credit in Europe for their factories are just ordinary Syrians.
Well, it's true that there are ways to circumvent these sanctions. They're almost, in many cases, this often occurs. But at the same time, it also increases the difficulty and sometimes even the cost. If it's political costs in the end for the Iranians and the Russians in the future, that might be one, so it might restrict some of the flow. And it can be also said that the civilian population is suffering and probably may suffer from the lack of maybe a restriction on goods or if it's access to capital in this way. But at the same time, it's difficult to kind of separate what that suffering would look like in a different situation, because you have a civil war going on, essentially.
Right, but the accusation also is, look, here's the EU willing really to do very little in terms of actively interfering or trying to stop this civil war. A little slap on the wrist, on the regime's wrist, kind of looks good.
I think it goes more than that, rather than just basically looking good. These are a series of steps, and they're incremental steps that go to a certain stage of saying, here, we've got some consensus. And if you look in a bigger picture, you look back to, I believe it was in December when the Arab League also passed sanctions. That's significant as well. It's an increasing and growing isolation, and even if they're just sanctions, they continue to increase. And yes, it's true, the regime is still in place and it's still killing people. It's still along a certain path that we're not exactly sure where it's leading, but we know it seems to build some momentum.
All right, Lawrence Rubin of Georgia Tech, thank you so much for joining us from the CNN Center today for our Syria in-depth segment. And every week we bring you clips from Syrian state television to give you an idea of what Syrians are seeing at home in their living rooms. Today's clip focuses on the dangers of the social media site Facebook as a source of rumors and speculation. Of course, we know Syria's opposition uses social media outlets to spread their message and to post videos of the conflict. But listen to this.
The social media site Facebook has transformed into a hub for rumors, whether to spread fabrication or made-up rumors about the personal life of celebrities. Users work to fan these rumors with opinion and comments that have no basis in facts. For example, a short time ago, a rumor spread about the movie star Basil Hayed, claiming he had decided to resign from acting as a type of protest against the events taking place in Syria recently. Hayed denied these rumors through his media office and said he is currently in the UAE to complete his studies in acting.
There you have it. This is the kind of commercial that Syrians see on Syrian state television if they're watching from inside the country. And CNN is taking our Syria coverage in depth each week, each Thursday. Send us any questions you have on what's going on in Syria or even any suggestions for angles you'd like to see covered at Hala Garani.